give yourselves to brutes, men who despise you, enslave you, who regiment your lives, tell you what to do, what to think, or what to feel, who drill you, diet you, treat you like cattle, use you as cannon fodder. Don't give yourselves to these unnatural men with machine minds and machine hearts.
It's time to buckle up for making sense of the madness.
And who loves you? And who do you love?
Hey everybody, Jason Bermas here. And we're now at the point where we have pressured the Trump administration enough after the catastrophe of Pam Bondi and Dan Bongino and Kash Patel essentially saying, case closed, it's over, stop asking questions. Well, that backfired in a manner so incredible that now the process has officially begun of a limited hangout cover-up, in my opinion. Okay, and the subpoenas are out. And the big headlines everywhere are that Bill and Hillary Clinton have been subpoenaed in this case. And look, huge story. No doubt about it. We're going to talk about the other individuals who have also been subpoenaed in this case and what this means. Because, I mean, the hopium train is out there right now. And there's a lot of clickbait. There's a lot of Johnny nonsense. They're telling you, Bill and Hillary Clinton going to jail. They're going to jail. If they don't want to testify, they're going to jail. And it's James Comer. Let's put this out. And look, the media is framing this as though everybody's a Democrat who's been subpoenaed right now. That's not the case. They did subpoena Bill Barr, to their credit. We're going to get into that as well. We got a few mainstream clips. Trump was asked yet again about the Epstein case, and yet again he says he doesn't want to talk about it, but then projects into this quote-unquote Democratic realm, okay? And we're going to talk about what the reality behind all of this is, because I don't think that we're getting the files. I would love to be wrong. I am almost 100% certain, especially in this regard, there's no one going to jail, okay? Is this farther than we've ever gotten before with this case and certain other things via this administration? 100%. But had the public sat on their hands and still worshiped Trump, especially within that MAGA base, after he said, you know, the Epstein thing was a hoax and yada, 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 we wouldn't be here. And by the way, that is the main distinction between this administration and any other administration in history. Even the first one, there was some influence and some push there, but nowhere near this second time around. All right? We, the people, aren't necessarily getting what we want, or the people that voted for Trump aren't necessarily getting everything that they want. But instead of constantly being gaslit to the point of silence and censorship, okay, the truth of the matter is we are having an impact. And so much of the administration is like that. You know, I was attacked by certain people for daring to say that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has done the right things now with getting thimerosal out. I mean, I've got some people sitting there going, release the Epstein Files. Those things have nothing to do with each other, okay? There's a lot in the world going on outside of Epstein, right? In fact, I'd make the argument that the largest event out there that we still have absolutely almost zero transparency on would be 9/11. And talk about influence. Talk about infrastructure. Talk about our entire foreign and domestic policy being built around that narrative, that is certainly, the biggest issue, because it reigns with our foreign policy. And, going back to people attacking me for daring to, say the positive things in this administration, then I see, oh, well, Robert F. Kennedy is a shill for Israel. I didn't say I agreed with his Israeli policy or his stance. What are we talking about here? Believe me, we're going to be going live later and talking about the latest developments in the Middle East and what's being said via Israel and Netanyahu and this Trump administration. It's dangerous. It's real dangerous. But if you've been listening to Netanyahu, even prior to October 7th, but the accelerant after October 7th, you should have known. He said, this is it. They're taking everything. And he meant it. Okay? He meant it. And everybody who wants to skirt around this issues and him talking around the issue and, he's in a more public arena or he's on some podcast. Look, this guy has been very out there with his intentions, and that's a whole other issue. Whole other issue, because that's current. And I know that people are pointing to, for instance, Ari Ben-Menashe, who's out there saying that, he thinks that Trump wants to stop these wars, but he's not able to, mostly because of what's in the Epstein files. I don't know that to be the case. I am certainly not saying that Epstein was not a successful blackmail artist. And up until a very recent point, remember, he was just picked up in 2019. And there were plenty of people after the 2008 arrest in high places that did not give a mother truck and still were hanging out with that guy. Jess Staley, going into his hot tub. Unbelievable. But that's what we're actually dealing with. So look, we're going to take a look at these subpoenas. We got some clips to play on this. And we're going to hit this news not from a hopium perspective, but from a reality perspective. Because we've had Ghislaine testify behind closed doors to the DOJ, okay, twice. Is that a positive thing? Not necessarily, but it's progress in the fact that now also the Trump administration is talking about whether or not they're going to release at least the transcripts of that. And you have at least some pushback by two of the victims. We're going to get into all that. Thumbs it up, subscribe, share, all right? Check out all the documentary films below. And I'm going to say it again, folks. I can't do it without you. I cannot do it without you. I want to thank Victoria as the latest supporter here on the Buy Me a Coffee. $5, $10, $15. It means the world to me. Big donors, please consider it. Again, you're not going to hear this on Newsmax or OAN or certainly Fox News. You're not going to hear it in a lot, if not the majority of the quote-unquote alternative media. So please, 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 there are no paychecks. I need your support. Also, give me a follow over on X, where you can find a lot of the raw stories that we talk about or sometimes don't even get to here. So let's get into it. All right. Clinton's asked to testify in congressional Epstein investigation. All right. Now, what I want to do here is, before I show you who else has been subpoenaed, I want to give you a look into the mainstream coverage of this. So this is CBS News clip covering this within the last few hours.
We are learning some new information this morning on the latest on the back and forth over the files related to Jeffrey Epstein. House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer has issued a slew of deposition subpoenas from multiple people, including the Department of Justice, former President Bill Clinton, and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. CBS News Justice reporter Jake Rosen is following this for us from Washington. Jake, the big question now is what comes next here?
Well, that's right. That is the big question, and it comes as the House is adjourned right now down the street from us here in D.C., Mugo, because there would have been a floor-wide vote to potentially force the unsealing and public release of the Department of Justice's Epstein Files. Speaker Mike Johnson did not want that, so they took a break for this part of the summer. The pressure has not stopped, and this is actually a semi-bipartisan resolution and statement from Chairman Comer, who has promised to get more information out of with the Department of Justice and people who were involved in these Jeffrey Epstein investigations throughout administrations. There are former Trump officials here. Think about Bill Barr, Jeff Sessions. There are people from the Obama era, Robert Mueller, Merrick Garland, who obviously was the Attorney General under President Biden, Eric Holder, some names who really are from a different generation of politics maybe than what we're living in now, but all whose Department of Justice or law enforcement organizations oversaw multiple investigations into Jeffrey Epstein. They want to sit down with these people, ask questions, and potentially get new answers out of them if there are any to be found. But the most interesting thing is the bipartisan resolution here, Mugo, to force the Department of Justice to release files from the multiple investigations, and in addition to that, a resolution to make sure that victims are protected, and also to force the release of any communications between the Biden Department of Justice and the FBI and White House about the Epstein files during President Biden's administration, obviously between 2020 and 2024.
Yeah, and Jake, we mentioned some very big names there. So how likely is it that they'll actually sit through a deposition?
Well, it depends on how much they want to fight this. There have been 3 instances in which a president has been compelled by Congress to subpoena. It's been Donald Trump, Harry Truman, and now potentially Bill Clinton. No president has actually sat down for any of these depositions so far, so likely President Clinton is not going to be forced to testify here. But it's very possible that other law enforcement officials are going to have to fight this and at least state why, or potentially come in and plead the Fifth Amendment, like we're seeing right now in Congress in different congressional investigations into President Biden and his administration. But the big question really here is there even anything new that could be uncovered on this front, Amugo, as the political football is still being passed between the White House, Department of Justice, and the courts in New York of whether these grand jury testimonies have anything new, whether there's anything else there, or whether potentially any details of the conversation between Ghislaine Maxwell and the Department of Justice from last month could be released as well. We are still waiting word on that. But certainly it's been an all-court press, and the pressure is not going to stop, even though the House of Representatives is not in right now. The Oversight Committee making it clear they intend to get some answers.
So listen, pretty fair. Pretty fair. Now, I want to show people, okay, some of the other individuals. This is the full list. As far as I know, okay, because I have not seen the official subpoenas here. But Politico, I think they've got the vast majority of them. We'll show you the other ones. But we've got Loretta Lynch. We got Eric Holder, Jeff Sessions, Alberto Gonzalez, Bill Barr, as I said, Merrick Garland, Robert Mueller, and James Comey. Now, look. Forget about just the Biden administration, if you will, and the 2020 to 2024. Okay? Certainly relevant. How about your administration, 2016 to 2020? Because there certainly seemed to be a lot going on in Trump's administration that he wasn't privy to. COVID-19 84 nightmare? Anybody? Election interference? Anybody? So, Bill Barr, as part of the, Bill Barr was also a private attorney with Kirkland and Ellis and talked about having to possibly recuse himself from everything Epstein when that second arrest came around. All right? There's a thing called attorney-client privilege. And you notice who did not get called here? And this is an issue. They didn't call Acosta. Acosta's not part of it. Now, Acosta allegedly was told to give the deal because Epstein was intelligence and it was above his pay grade at the time. All right? Now, when he was asked about that, and not a Democratic thing, happened during your administration, Trump, I'd love to see the documents on that one. I'd love to hear the phone call that Acosta got that he had to step down as the Treasury Secretary with you by his side, like 48 hours. In fact, you know what? Let's play that. Let's do that live.
We'll do it live. Okay.
And show people.
No. We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
Okay. So let me just type it in. Dicka-dicka-do. And here it is. Okay, we did. See, so Google works for some things. So there, Trump as Acosta resigns. This was him, not me. They're just standing right next to each other. They did 56 minutes together, just literally. It's like, what did you say, dude? Bye. See ya. Oh, come on.
And I got a call this morning early from Alex, and I think he did a very good job yesterday. Under a lot of pressure, he did a fantastic job, and he explained it. And he made a deal that people were happy with, and then 12 years later, they're not happy with it. You'll have to figure all of that out. But the fact is, he has been a fantastic Secretary of Labor. And Alex called me this morning, and he wanted to see me. And I actually said, well, we have the press right out here, so perhaps you just want to say it to the press. But I just want to let you know, this was him, not me, because I'm with him. He's a tremendous talent. He's a Hispanic man. He went to Harvard, a great student. And in so many ways, I just hate what he's saying now, because we're going to miss him.
As I look forward, I do not think it is right and fair for this administration's Labor Department to have Epstein as the focus rather than the incredible economy that we have today. And so I called the president this morning. I told him that I thought the right thing was to step aside. Cabinet positions are temporary trusts. It would be selfish for me to stay in this position and continue talking about a case that's 12 years old rather than about the amazing economy we have right now.
So let's make it really clear, okay? It's never even been like an open secret that the reason the guy had to step down is because they were pressing him about Epstein. Now, does anybody believe that Acosta stepped down on his own? Now, I'm not saying Donnie T gave him, listen, Alex, you've got to resign. He might have had a surrogate do it. But do you really believe that Acosta, 24, I mean, he tells you that. Sometimes I say within 48 hours. 24 hours later, after being asked about his Epstein deal and him dancing around the question of whether or not Epstein is intelligence, he sits there and resigns next to Trump. Okay, no big deal, right? So now what we're going to do is we're gonna play this clip of Trump again being asked, because it's not going away. Guess what? That right there, that's 6 years ago. So, and now it's still on, Donnie. We're not done. So here he gets asked, and again, he's pushing it into the quote-unquote left and Democratic arena.
Well, I don't want to talk about that. What I do want to say is that Todd is a great attorney, but you ought to be speaking about Larry Summers. You ought to be speaking about some of his friends that are hedge fund guys. They're all over the place. You ought to be speaking about Bill Clinton, who went to the island 28 times. I never went to the island.
Do you maintain you did not write a letter for Jeffrey Epstein's birthday?
I don't even know what they're talking about. Now, somebody could have written a letter and used my name, but that's happened a lot. All you have to do is take a look at the dossier, the fake dossier. Everything's fake with that administration.
Dossier has nothing to do with the Trump birthday note or the Trump birthday note in the Epstein birthday book that's supposedly a bunch of other people. And obviously he's maintaining that because there's a lawsuit about it. Bill Clinton, I don't know how many times he went to the island, but the reports of 28, that's not real. Okay? We're talking about times on the jet that we know about. And it's not one island, it's a couple islands, sir. And it's also the New Mexico ranch, which was never investigated. So let's let Trumpy finish up here.
Everything's fake with the Democrats. Take a look at what they just found about the dossier. Everything is fake. They're a bunch of sick people.
So, again, the dossier, yeah. You notice I never said that was real. I never said that I thought that, Russian hookers were peeing on Trump. Just throwing that out there. That was never something I endorsed. So, before we play this clip, the Trump administration What's going on here? Is that some kind of a... I'm hearing that.
I think this is a big jump.
Oh, there it is. Oh, I see what happened there. Sorry, guys. Fox News just plays clips right after. Hate doing that. All right. So the Trump administration is debating releasing the transcript of the Ghislaine Maxwell interview. I want, whether she was lying or not, and, you know, he was just being asked about the lawyer and the DOJ talking to Maxwell. I want to see it. And honestly, I'd rather, instead of a transcript, see her facial reactions and expressions as she talks about whatever they asked her about for 2 days. You do have a couple of the victims, apparently, saying they don't want it out there. And I could understand that, because I'm not saying that Ghislaine Maxwell was telling the truth. After all, she's asking for not... First of all, she's not even asking for a pardon. All right, she's asking for her entire case to be thrown out and wants the Supreme Court to see it. So let's play this clip right here. Let's get those thumbs up, subscribe, and share. Let's go.
Let's talk about the latest in the Jeffrey Epstein scandal. We understand that 2 of Epstein's abuse victims sent letters to a federal court. This was condemning the Justice Department's request to unseal grand jury testimony. What did they have to say?
Right. There are 2 victims that anonymously wrote this letter to federal judges in New York. The deadline was today for not only Ghislaine Maxwell's attorney, but also for the Department of Justice and victims and their attorneys to make their case as to whether grand jury transcripts from the Jeffrey Epstein proceedings should be released to the public. And that is where the 2 of these letters come from. One of those anonymous victims called what has taken place over the last month political warfare, and suggesting that the ongoing deliberations over whether to release the Epstein Files amounts to just an effort to protect wealthy people, wealthy men specifically. And there was a mention of scrutiny around Donald Trump and DOJ resources to identify where he is, yet having his name within those files not having been released here at this point in time. Those victims, they do request that their attorneys have a bigger role in any potential redactions in order to ensure that victims' names are protected if, in fact, these federal judges out of New York were to make the determination that any parts of the...
You know, I don't know of any Jane Does in any of the cases with Epstein that have been outed by files or individuals that weren't properly redacted. Yet that's the talking point again and again and again. And that NBC, certainly not as fair as CBS. Oh, Trump's name's in the Epstein file. We know that. It's not new. I mean, Trump himself just recently talked about Virginia Giuffre Roberts and Epstein, quote unquote, stealing workers from him, from his spa. Okay? We know they were friends. He went to his second wedding. Who knows? Maybe the first one. We don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if the relationship was that long. All right? I've said it before. I'm going to say it again. If the Democrats or the power structure, the predator class, the deep state, whatever you want to call them, they don't like Trump. Okay? They really don't. He's tough to work with. They are able to get some of their agendas in. Certainly the technocratic agenda is full force right now with people like Peter Thiel behind it. He's certainly not able to do what he said he was going to be able to do in the Middle East either. But they still don't like his disruption. And Trump thought he was going to be able to get away with not having to get into the Epstein files because it doesn't make him look great. Again, I'm contending that typed up letter, that whole thing, that seems to come from Trump Plaza. Everybody was so quick to call that a hoax. And you notice I didn't break out my jump to conclusions, Matt. I said, well, actually, I'm going to wait to see physically what they have and what the rest of the story is before I make a judgment. And I'm 80+% that looks real. You notice how Trump's backed off on, maybe somebody gave him a letter or wrote him a letter. Okay. I mean, I don't think Trump typed that up. I also said that. I don't think he even wrote it. I think that he had a surrogate do it. I think he did do the doodle. Again, if it's real. I don't know 100%. But everybody is so quick to jump on talking points. All right? So if we're releasing the Epstein files, another person we didn't talk about other than Acosta, and we briefly talked about Bill Barr. Remember, Robert Mueller's in there as well. And we know Epstein also cut the deal with the FBI to provide information to them in the Palm Beach case. We've shown that document here. I heard people saying that that's a new leaked document. Covered it years ago. I think it was 2019 it came out, and we had to recover it. All right? Dershowitz cut that deal. He's not on subpoena. Dershowitz is in public talking about this case on podcasts, saying he knows who's in some of these videos because he saw them and was privy to them in the Palm Beach case. There's a multitude of documentation if we're releasing the Epstein files. Before the Palm Beach case, after the Palm Beach case. Again, Maria Farmer, who came on my show, and remember, Annie Farmer, her sister, was one of the people winning in court against Ghislaine Maxwell. I certainly understand why people are hesitant, but she claims that she went to the FBI back in 1996. 1996. Okay? So we're talking serious filage prior to Palm Beach. And then after Palm Beach, well, you reopened it in 2019. You had the whole lawsuit with Prince Andrew. Those are part of the files. You had the Epstein-Bradley Edwards lawsuit where Edwards was, representing a ton of the victims. We've shown you time and time and time again. Maybe I have to bring that up again. Maybe I have to find that really quick. We usually have it on tap. We like to.
I'm so grateful that you're here. Thank you.
See, we're hitting wrong buttons. I don't have things on tap, so I'm looking at Tucker Carlson stuff. Let's see. Let's see if we can tap-a-roo. That's right here, maybe. Yeah. And this is why we do it live, and we need your support. Let's look at some of these documents. By the way, I don't even think we have 100 thumbs up. Let's get the thumbs up right now. Let's show you some of the documentation that we would get if we were getting all the files. Files aren't just print. It's not just grand jury testimony, okay? So if we were getting all the files, and this is a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of what actually exists, okay? All these binders are full of Epstein files. Now, I don't even believe that all of these are like child pornography, by the way. I want to make that extremely clear. What you probably have there are deep associations of Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, powerful individuals in certain places at get-togethers, on vacation, at the island, okay, in New Mexico, alongside some of their victims as well. Okay? So right there, even though maybe nothing in those binders is criminal, maybe, I don't know. You have such deep associations where you're going to have timelines where these people were interacting. All right? And you can imagine that some of those people are going to be the people in his black book, in his Rolodex, and on the flight logs that are available. So those documents right there, we would get those. You think we're getting those? You think we're getting people who are going to jail with these subpoenas? You just heard Clinton's problem. Either Clinton, I would be shocked if they're able to get them in a room and talk about Epstein. Don't think they're even going to show up. Now, this is one drawer of one home, and you have these labeled. You have these labeled discs that are burned discs. Now, photographs, videos, they're mixed media discs. They don't look like audio discs to me. All right, so now you have the burned discs. Right there you have the hard drives. So, yeah, and again, those hard drives contain videos. Right here, they don't even want you to see this photograph. Who's in this photograph? You understand? They'll show you the Black Hawk helicopter for some reason next to it, but not the photograph. So now you literally have bins of hard drives that we've seen, right? And here's Bradley Edwards. Okay? 1, 2, 3, 4 high. Let me see if I can just count across. 1, 2, let's say 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 times 4. We get those documents too. I'm a realist, guys. And I wish that I had better news for everybody. I think that this is the dog and pony show that the Republicans are going to need going into the midterms so they don't get completely eviscerated. Right? Bannon, who's sitting on those tapes, he was damn right. He said if they don't fix this, they're going to lose 30 to 40 seats. And that's not just through corruption. That's because people will be pissed. Because they are. Because they are. Folks, we didn't even get to 100 thumbs up. On the way out, let's thumbs it up, subscribe, share, ring that bell. Let me say ring that bell or you're not going to get too many notifications. Remember, over here, we need your support. Yeah, we didn't even get into the transhumanist stuff. We could have done that. I mean, that's a whole nother aspect. The arms dealing, the Khashoggi stuff, the Gates stuff, all real. All real. And you would have a multitude of documentation on that reality if we were going to get the Epstein Files. We even show you the safe where they found Epstein's fake passport and fake identity, Saudi Arabian address. I need your support, guys. I am not able to do this at all without you. You guys are the lifeblood of this program. There are no paychecks if you appreciate what I do. And I really do hope you think what I'm doing is somewhat valuable. The links are down below, $5, $10, $15. It does mean the world to me. If you don't love to buy me a coffee, there's also PayPal and other ways to support the broadcast. And if you have not checked out the documentary films, please do so. Please, please, pretty please. Fabled Enemies and Loose Change Final Cut really lay out 9/11 being an international intelligence operation and why we're in the situation we are almost 24 years later. 24th anniversary just around the corner. A little over a month from now, okay? Then my bigger picture films, Invisible Empire, A New World Order Defined, and Shade the Motion Picture. Please check them out. Please share them with others. And as always, remember, it is not about left or right. It is always about right and wrong. I absolutely love you guys, and we'll see you on the flip.